Howdy, 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 my name is Anachi Sasuke, and welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki, or whatever. In the last episode, we read about the Infernal Occult Skeleton, which was really weird and terrifying in several different ways. So today we're going to start with the auditory mind control, and just see how far we get by the time we hit either 40 minutes or an hour, depending on if my throat decides to do the die. So, for some reason, auditory mind control is classified as safe. The source code for 61 is to be kept on a standard archival quality read-only data compact disc, CD-ROM. 4 copies of the CD-ROM with the source code are to be stored in separate maximum security inanimate object lockers. Except for purposes of approved experimentation, 61 is not to be loaded, compiled, or run. Research proposals for 61 require written approval from Site Command. Only 1 copy of the CD-ROM containing the source code for 61 may be used at a time. The CD-ROM is to be returned to storage immediately after being used to load the source code for 61 into a device. Okay. 61 must never be loaded, compiled, or run on any device which has a connection to the internet, either directly or via another device. 61 must never be loaded, compiled, or run on any device which is physically capable of wireless connectivity, regardless of whether that connectivity is in use. For purposes of approved experimentation, 61 may be loaded, compiled, and run on a LAN consisting of no more than 3 devices plus peripherals. No devices are to be connected from the LAN during disconnected from the LAN during experiment. Following the conclusion of experimentation, all devices within this LAN are to be immediately reformatted. Audio output peripherals for this LAN are to be contained within an observation chamber surrounding the noise-canceling vacuum insulation. In the event of a perimeter breached by hostiles during 61 experimentation, all devices within the LAN are to be immediately destroyed. So, 61 is an acoustic computer program being developed by SCP researchers with the intent of producing successful countermeasures to similar programs being developed by governments and individuals around the world. Inspired by research on data expunged, SCP Command saw both the potential and harm in the ability to control the brain functions of other human beings. Laymen understand that music can elicit certain emotions, and memories or various sounds can elicit fear and excitement by simply being heard. Governments around the world have been attempting to expand on that premise for decades. SCP research is the first to elicit responses on higher mental activities. Parts of the brain affected by 61 differ from those stimulated by data expunged or by subliminal messaging. Instead of acting on parts of the brain that are thought to be in control of the subconscious, acoustic frequencies produced by 61 intercept conscious thoughts as they are produced and replace them. Instead of a suggestion, the human hearing center bisects the conscious thinking mind of the frontal lobe with the motor control corticular homunculus of the brain. I have no idea what the hell I just said, but I'm sure it made sense. A baseline rhythm convinces the rest of the brain that the conscious mind is asleep and effectively stops conscious thought from continuing to the rest of the brain. And in return, the frontal lobe experiences a pause that resembles the psychological effects of anesthesia. Acoustic codes developed by 61 are interpreted by motor centers in the brain as conscious instructions, and the subject typically acts accordingly. See Addendum 1. Subjects will normally have a blank facial expression while under the influence of 61. They are not responsive to attempts at conversation and express no desire such as hunger or interest in sexual advances. Though all commands are followed without question, the effects of the auditory control cease once the subject is no longer able to hear the program. Most test subjects report being unable to remember the actions they performed while under control, but a few have experienced the effect of watching helplessly as their body acted against their will. The intent of such research is to discover ways to counteract the effects of auditory mind control. However, only 2 methods of countermeasures have proven successful as of yet. 1, the subject's hearing is impaired so that the individual can no longer hear the program either by covering the ear or deafening the subject. 2, the program itself sends a coded instruction to the hearing center of the brain, permanently shutting it down. Though the ear continues to hear, there has been no progress in finding the proper code to reboot the hearing center of the brain. Addendum 1. All subjects placed under auditory control issued a coded auditory command and then monitor. Subject 4402F. Command: sleep. Response: curled into the fetal position on the floor, her brain began emitting alpha waves associated with sleep. Her eyes remained wide open, and the typical blank, empty expression associated with controlled subjects, per her eyes twitched rapidly in ways associated with REM sleep. Subject 4427M, which is probably male. Run on treadmill. Subject mounted treadmill and then proceeded to run. Subject did not turn on the treadmill, resulting in the subject impacting the control platform. Subject repeated this until the stop command was issued. Note, more detailed commands are advised for task-oriented commands. Subject 4427M. Turn treadmill on, run on treadmill. Response, subject turned on treadmill to the maximum speed, mounted and attempt to run before being ejected off the conveyor belt. Subject repeatedly attempted to turn on the treadmill to random speed and run on it with various outcomes. Note, more detailed commands are advised for task-oriented commands. Subject 4427 M. Command, turn on treadmill to jogging speed. Jog on treadmill. Subject successfully jogged on treadmill until stop command was issued, which resulted in subject being ejected off the conveyor belt. Subject should be in a safe neutral position before stop commands are issued. That's great. Okay, so that one was safe because they're using it to try to protect people from mind control. Okay, that makes sense. Now let's check out the quantum computer. This one's Euclid. 62 is stored in a dedicated containment cell at Site Blank under cleanroom conditions. Any experimentation on 62 must receive prior permission from at least two level 3 personnel and must only be performed with independent power sources. 62 must never be attached to an external network, and all data extracted from 62 is to be stored on external non-volatile media until analyzed. So don't put it on batteries. 62 appears to be an unbranded personal laptop computer housed in an aluminum case of indeterminate manufacture. 62 is unusually heavy at approximately 24 kilograms and lacks manufacturing or branding labels of any kind. The words "information is freedom, sick" were found scratched into the casing near the back, apparently with a key or similar object. Rude. Inspection of its interior has revealed that 62 is empty except for a blank circuit board in place of where the motherboard of a standard personal computer would be. 62 will not function unless the case is completely sealed, and it attempts to open the case while it is operating cause it to shut down immediately. Despite this, 62 operates as expected for a normal desktop computer, with the exception that its performance, operating system, contained data, and language appears to be different upon every activation. 62 was discovered in the basement of the University of Blank Computer Science Laboratory by Redacted. An embedded Foundation agent seized the object and brought it to Site Blank, where it has since been contained. List of notable activation results. Addendum 62-1. Date, blah blah blah. 62 appears to be running Windows XP and Catalan? Cato? Okay, that language. Analysis of contained data showed financial records for the Blank banking firm in France for the period of May 1963 to April 1987. These records are inconsistent with actual bank records procured by undercover Foundation agents. Date, blank blank blank. 62 appears to be running Debian Linux in Latin, or Debian Linux, whatever. Contained data consisted of a library of audio recordings over blank choral songs and hymns, of which blank are not found in any known collection or have never been performed. Date, blah blah blah. 62 appeared to be running a version of Solaris in Portuguese. Contained data consisted of promotional and marketing material for Redacted, which appears to be a commercial space flight corporation that does not exist. Date, blah blah blah. 62 appeared to be running an unknown operating system visually known to OS2, with an unknown language later identified to have strong similarities to that of Voynich manuscript. Attempts at deciphering the contained data are ongoing. Date, blah blah blah. 62 appeared to be running Redacted in French. Contained data confirmed to be that of a standard Foundation workstation, though the site indicated by its location data, site blah, does not exist, and investigation is ongoing. Date, blah blah blah. 62 appeared to be running an Apple OS X in what appears to be Akkadian cuneiform script. Contained data appears to be composed mainly of religious texts and descriptions of ritual and ceremonial procedures. Date, blah blah blah. Description, Redacted. Investigation is ongoing as to how the virus managed to compromise 3 workstations and 1 file server before 62 was forcibly shut down. All affected workstations have been isolated. Okay, so it sounds like at one point it was turned on and it picked up an SCP virus. Because one of the SCPs is a computer virus. SCP-63, the world's best toothbrush. Safe. 63 is to be kept at all times within Dr. Blank's personal bathroom, located within the personnel quarters upon Site 19. object is to be used as designated at least once in a 24-hour period, or the subject will begin to emit an unknown specialized radiation that results in objects and material within a 0.6 meter radius slowly being warped and eventually disintegrating into a fine dust. Radiation effect on living test subjects has not been monitored. Description: 63 appears to be an average pale blue toothbrush, stenciled along the side of the object are the world's best toothbrush. The word toothbrush is spelled incorrectly, though whether this was accidental or purposeful action by the creators of the object is unknown. 63 displays the ability to effortlessly cleave through any and all dead or inorganic matter, the focal point of this ability being the bristles. However, matter touched by the bristles is not separated, such as by way of a knife, but completely expunged from existence, leaving no trace whatsoever. This mode of operation is reminiscent of SCP-2207, suggesting that the two anomalies share a connection or were created by the same entity or entities. Additionally, subjects who have used 63 claim that the experience left their teeth feeling remarkably clean. In spite of its extraordinary abilities, lab analysis had discerned that 63 is completely made of common plastic. 63 was originally found in St. Petersburg on the person of Blank, a thief working in the area using 63's abilities to crack safes. When questioned about the object, the subject professed ignorance, claiming that he had simply found the object one day. Questioning of the subject continued until he took his own life. His reason for doing this is, as of yet, unknown. Okay, so I just want to return to the whole object is to be used as designated at least once in a 24-hour period, or it will begin to emit a specialized radiation that results in objects and material within 2 feet being warped and disintegrating into a fine dust. That does not sound safe to me. Like, I get that it's safe because it's basically a really good toothbrush, but the fact that it's a really good toothbrush that, if not used once a day, starts to dissolve things doesn't sound safe to me. Anyway, now it's time for flawed von Neumann structure. Whatever that is. Is a von Neumann structure an actual thing? The next time the term comes up, I'll Google it. Okay, so 64 is to be kept in a suitably remote area for observation. Current goals are to generate a geometric model of the object's behavioral pattern and to observe any changes in this pattern due to location and soil composition. Certain sites in the Gobi Desert and Australian outback, as well as a number of salt flats scattered around the globe, are under consideration for future testing. 64's current location is classified to all personnel under security clearance level 3. Once growth is stopped, field teams are to document the structure's size, shape, and composition and remove the object for transport to a new site. What is this one? Safe? Okay. 64 is a light brown earthenware brick. Okay, I said that right. Composed primarily of silicone oxides and some organic matter. The object weighs 1.6 kilograms and measures some 10 centimeters by 6 by 20. Its surface is smooth and flat with some minor cosmetic chips. By and large, the object is visually similar to most solid bricks used in construction. When left lying on a flat expanse of soft earth, 64 will begin to multiply through an unknown mechanism. Is osmosis the right word? I don't think osmosis is the right word. Close observation reveals the appearance of an irregular lattice of silicone fibers in the shape of the original object, which then fills and solidifies with a soil-based mixture until it attains the proper mass. This process may be similar to this word, propagation in fungi, with microscopic root structures mining minerals from soil in the immediate vicinity. Under optimal conditions, soil composition at roughly 90% silicon dioxide, it takes approximately 7 minutes for one complete brick to appear. Given a large expanse of earth to work with, 64 produces a highly complex but theoretically stable freestanding brick structure, including floors and ceilings. Past observations indicate that the structure could attain the shape of a 12-pointed star over 10 kilometers in diameter and of considerable height. However, this is speculative, as growth stops permanently once the structure contacts a significant obstacle, observed to include any solid object over 10 kilograms in mass. Structural integrity is very high, as bricks orient themselves to be as level as possible and fit together almost perfectly. Interestingly, the structure's growth is tailored to a specific set of cardinal directions, with 64 always being the northernmost brick on the lowest level. 64 must be attached for growth to occur. Once 64 is removed, the structure begins to decay and all secondary bricks crumble to dust at a rate roughly equal to their rate of appearance. Replacing the objects within 20 minutes halts this decay and allows growth to continue. past this threshold, the process is irreversible. 64 was found by chance in April of 2000-something. During satellite observation of an elevated plateau in the Andes Mountains, a camera operator noted that one structure was apparently growing. Extrapolating the object's approximate location from the structure's apparent direction of growth, which stopped during recovery, field teams located the object by differences in color between 64 and its secondary bricks, which were high in iron oxides from the local soil. A full excavation of the original site is underway in order to ascertain the object's cultural and technological origins. So that actually does sound safe. It's just a brick that turns into a building if it's put in the right spot. And it stops if it gets to anything that weighs at least 10 kilograms, so I don't think humans are 10 milligrams, but it sounds like if it were to bump into a car or something, it would stop. Not milligrams, kilograms. Okay, so next up is Destroyed Organic Catalyst, which is Euclid. And there's a photograph of it exhibiting visual distortion. As 65 cannot be moved, it has been contained on site and Site Blank has been established around it. Site Blank has been marked as a government research facility off limits to civilians, and unauthorized individuals attempting to gain access to the area are to be detained, questioned, and administered a Class A amnestic if deemed necessary by the site security. See, when it said unauthorized individuals attempting to gain access, I immediately assumed it was going to say terminate, but brain wiping them makes sense, I guess. An area of 17 meters in radius around the center of 65 has been designated the Red Zone. Personnel may not enter the Red Zone of 65 at any time, and experimentation with 65 may only be performed with prior approval from at least two Level 3 senior research staff. Personnel at high risk of cancer must not be assigned to Site Blank, and all Site Blank personnel must undergo mandatory monthly physical evaluations, including cancer screenings. Okay. 65 is a spherical region of space approximately 12 meters in radius located on a farm near Redacted. 65 was formed by the destruction of an anomalous artifact on site by the Global Occult Coalition on blank blank blank. Immediately following this initial event, the radius of 65 was estimated to have initially expanded to 108 meters in radius, resulting in the deaths of 11 GLC operatives and 5 civilians. Since containment by the Foundation, the effective radius of 65 is shrunk to and remains stable at its current size. 65 causes abnormal transfiguration to any living organism in its area of effect. These effects include, but are not limited to, regression of specialized cells to an undifferentiated stem state, spontaneous separation and fusion of undifferentiated cells, spontaneous necrosis of living tissue and reanimation of dead tissue. It's rapid genetic mutation of living tissue. I guess that would explain why cancer people shouldn't go near it. Because then it'll just make the cancer either grow or turn into something else. These effects occur at a rate proportional to the mass and complexity of the organism. Plants and insects show few, if any, effects. Small animals will exhibit alterations following several days of exposure. Larger animals will show harmful mutations within hours, and all human subjects exposed to the Red Zone have been fatally altered within approximately 15 minutes of exposure. To date, all attempts to directly observing the center of 65 have failed, as 65 causes a form of extreme sensory confusion in all observers that extends to recording equipment. Affected personnel have reported highly distorted vision and hearing that persists for several hours and can result in severe dizziness and nausea. Addendum 1 researcher note. On blank blank blank, robotic rover designed to use somatosensory rather than visual or acoustic navigation managed to reach the center of 65 and retrieve several objects. When pieced back together, these objects appear to be the shattered fragments of a stone figurine of Coco Pele, a Native American fertility deity. Along with the pre-incident data obtained from the Global Occult Coalition, it appears that this artifact had been used by the civilian family to boost the yield of their farm, and only came to the attention of the GLC when an investigation by the United States Department of Agriculture revealed genetic markers in their supposed organic crops consistent with those of genetically modified organisms, GMO crops. The GLC attempted an on-site destruction of this artifact, resulting in the creation of 65. Following this incident, the GLC contacted a Foundation liaison and requested assistance in containing the resultant anomaly. Addendum 2. The following document was recovered from the formerly civilian-owned farmhouse at Site Blank. John, I heard things aren't going so well back at home. I wish I could come back and help right now, but it's tough over here right now as well, and we're on the verge of some important discoveries. I know it's not much, but I found this during the trip. The man who gave it to me described it as a representation of that which is and that which might be. Plant it by the cornfield, and hopefully it will help make ends meet. See you soon, G. Okay, destroyed organic catalyst. So it was a thing that was supposed to help make things better. Somebody killed it, and then it fucked up everything. Wrong button. Back. Okay, Eric's toy. With all those crossouts. Safe Prodes, Euclid Impetus. What does that mean? A combination classes are Safe Euclid, Euclid Keter, and something called Euclid Impetus at least once. Well, I guess this is the at least once. It used to say 66 is to be kept in a safe deposit box at 21, Site 21. Personnel level 2 or higher may perform experiments on it after following the relevant request forms. Sorry. Researchers may log their results in experiment log 66 beta. Now it says 66 is to be kept in a tungsten carbide box in Site 21's high-value item storage facility. Once every month, this box must be manually inspected for damage to the interior. If damage is present, 66 must be moved to a new box. This task is performed by a robotic arm capable of performing the task in under 3 seconds. And apparently that's what it looks like prior to Incident 66-2. 66 is an amorphous mass of braided yarn and ribbon weighing approximately 1 kilogram. Strands of 66 may be taken individually and manipulated. When this is done, a note on the diatonic scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, is produced by the object. I don't know what the hell that is. When a set of 6 or more notes are produced, 66 will produce a benign, scratch that out, effect of varying nature and duration. 66 will not respond to manipulation while any effect produced by it is in progress. Prior to Incident 66-2, results have included 66 transformed into a small calico kitten for 17 minutes. The kitten exhibited significant friendliness and playfulness and appeared to be declawed. A song lasting for 4 minutes, acoustic guitar with vocal accompaniment by singer-songwriter Redacted. The lyrics warned the listener not to use sharp objects without parental supervision. A small cupcake, chocolate with chocolate frosting and a lit candle on top. Notably, the tones produced prior to this effect corresponded to the opening notes of Happy Birthday. 66 became responsive after said cupcake was consumed. Incident 66-2. Is there not a 66-1? On April 18th, 2008, also sorry about that sound, I was scratching my beard. April 18th, 2008, D664437, so I guess disposable person 4437 who deals with this item, was instructed to use a pair of scissors to remove a portion of 66 for testing. However, when he began to cut it, 66 rolled 1 meter away from him before stopping and making an unidentified squeaking sound. Before he could be provided with further instruction, 664437 attempted to cut it again. 66 rolled away and produced the phrase, "Are you Eric?" in response. After they replied in a negative, 66 morphed into its present state, see file photo, and began emitting loud, dissonant staccato notes until 4437 was escorted from the room. After 66-2, 66 began to exhibit behavior highly inconsistent with its previous properties. 66 now displays significant mobility, primarily in the form of being able to move tentacular portions of itself at very high speed. While 66 is either unable or unwilling to use its ability for transportation, it will occasionally attempt to damage its containment by rubbing its strands against the side of the box, gradually wearing it down. This process appears to be unusually effective for materials in consideration. Additionally, 66 will automatically produce notes and effects in the presence of any human, regardless of whether that human interacts with it. This process takes a minimum of 6 seconds, and the aftermath of 66-2 effects produced by 66 have included: a single bee was released near containment, stinging 4436 before flying away. The bee was not captured. It is unknown how the bee survived. Beethoven's Second Symphony played at over 140 decibels, causing permanent deafness in 3 personnel and permanent hearing damage in 8 others. The room containing 66 experiencing a sudden and complete absence of light for 5 hours. Personnel in the room reported hearing loud breathing behind their shoulders, although no source was apparent. When it is not producing anomalous effects, 66 will say the name Eric constantly in a deep masculine voice. Footnote: 66 consistently destroys any recording devices placed inside its containment box. So apparently after they tried to cut it with scissors, it grew a bunch of eyeballs that can swivel to track movement and light sources. So it used to be that, and then it did a song about this, not using sharp objects without parental supervision, and then someone tried to use scissors on it, and then it completely changed and it's not safe anymore. Alright then. Okay, so, the artist's pen. Is this like the magic pencil from SpongeBob? Well, it's safe, and there's a close-up of how it looks when it's doing the draw. When not in use or the subject of study, 67 is to be stored in a felt-lined wooden box. The nib is to be corked, and all art or writings are to be submitted to SCP Research Command for analysis and further experimentation. 67 is a fountain pen made by a German supply company called Pelican at some point between World War I and II. It is pale green in color and with a single red line going straight down along the side. I don't see it. The shell is oak and the nib is extremely sharp, capable of piercing human skin if pressed even lightly, so don't poke anybody with it. Though it apparently lacks reservoir, the nib never appears to run out of fresh ink. In addition, the pen writes in iron gall ink, which is suitable for artists but would normally corrode typical fountain pens quickly. Research has surmised that any subject holding 67 loses all autonomy of the hand and arm that grasp it. Full sensation is intact, but the arm below the elbow is controlled by unknown forces theoretically centralized within 67. One effect is that the controlled hand will start to use the pen to write a detailed biography of the individual holding the pen. The biography will include such information as the person's name, age, date of birth, criminal records, fears, etc. Other times, the pen has been known to write such things as an occurrence that happened in the person's lifetime. For example, when test subject 1204M held 67, he began to write a detailed record of a motor vehicle accident he had been in the year before. Later, the subject admitted that many details penned in the account were not readily available to him at present time, i.e., the subject had forgotten many elements present in the written work, including his previous car's license plate number, the other vehicle's color, and so on. The subject stated that his memory of the event was so fresh in his mind during the transcription that he could taste the blood in his mouth. Damn. Subjects holding 67 have also been known to create intricate works of art, despite the subject lacking any formal art training or previous tendencies toward drawing. For example, 1102F, a young woman with no previous artistic experience, was able to draw a winged creature resembling SCP Blank, described by researchers present as data expunged. When subjects are asked to explain what happens when they hold SCP-67, the typical response is that the subject freely relinquishes control of the appendage to 67 so that it may complete its work unimpeded. See quoted response 1. Despite being instructed to not draw or write, subjects describe feelings of empathy, admiration, and cooperation with 67 that coerces them towards a will not their own. Quoted response 1. I don't really know how to explain it, it just kind of happened. When I picked up the pen, it seemed as if my hand wasn't my own anymore. I knew I could move it if I wanted to, but I chose not to because I loved the picture I was drawing. It was like my hand had life. Suddenly my hand stopped and I realized I had complete control over my hand again, and I put the pen back down. I looked at the drawing and saw how beautiful it was. I guess the pen decided it was done and was finished with me. Test experiments. On blank 2000-something, a test was done to see how the pen affected living creatures other than humans. Experiment 1. Test subject. A male rhesus macaque monkey aged 2 years 4 months who had previously learned how to use pens and markers was placed in a standard psychological surveillance room, neutral wall coloration, one-way observation mirrors, with 67, a work table, and a pad of paper. Subject picked up 67 in his left foot, then took it in his right hand, then tasted it. Subject then put the pen down on the paper and smelled it. After 30 seconds, subject picked up 67 again and began tapping it repeatedly on the table. Subject also began tapping 67 on his own body. Subject tapped 67 with increasing force until ink was being splattered on his fur. Subject then threw 67 on the floor. Subsequent mechanical analysis revealed no damage. At this point, subject tore a page from the pad of paper, began rubbing it on the ink in his fur. This continued for 3 minutes, after which subject clutched the page with his teeth and leapt from the work table onto the ledge of the observation mirror with such force that the table was knocked over. Subject began smearing ink from the paper onto the observation mirror while making repeated vocalizations. Subsequent analysis revealed that 50% of the vocalizations were consistent with the typical distress vocalizations of the rhesus macaque, and 50% were unfamiliar. After 6 minutes of smearing ink on the observation mirror, subject began tearing at the page with his teeth and claws, but dropped it before destroying more than 20% of the paper. Subject then collapsed on the floor, breathing rapidly and repeating the unfamiliar, atypical vocalizations. Meh. Subject's handler reports that, once removed from the psychological surveillance room, subject's mood improved rapidly. Subject was closely observed for 2 months following the experiment but did not repeat the atypical vocalizations. The sheet of paper was filed away and data expunged. Interesting. The wire figure. It's a good thing a lot of these are short entries. The wire figure is safe even if it looks kinda creepy. 68 is to be kept away from any metals and electrically resistant box, preferably made of polytetrafluoroethylene Teflon. Why didn't you just say Teflon in the first place? And rubber. Said box is to be stored at a security locker 26 site 11. Keys to be kept with Dr. Someone. Any requests for testing are to be redirected to him. 68 is a wire stick figure, 9.8 centimeters tall, made of an unknown metal. The figure is composed of a single wire looping back to the center. The wire itself appears to have been bent numerous times in multiple places. When an electrical current is introduced to 68, it becomes animate, moving about on its own. 68's joints are where a normal human beings would be. Once activated, 68 begins to search for any metallic material. Once metal has been found, 68 will begin to knead it and pull a thin strip of metal off. 68 will then construct another figure similar to itself. The newly created figure will begin to knead the remaining metal alongside the original, creating new figures which in turn produce more replicas. 68 will move on to its next stage after one of two requirements are met. The first is when there are no more metals in range with enough mass to produce another figure. The other is when an upper limit of 102 replicas are created. When either of these events occur, all figures will converge at one location and begin forming themselves into as big a figure as possible. With a maximum of 102 minifigures, the resulting figure reaches 2 meters in height. 68 situates itself in the intersection of the torso, arms, and head. Gamma, beta, and theta waves begin emitting from 68 after this union. 68 will then begin to search for metals again, attempting to create more figures, only scaled up to whatever size 68 is currently at. These replicas do not emanate brain waves like 68 does. If 68 is not at the maximum size limit after this, it will continue to create and add more figures to itself until the limit is reached. Once it has reached the second stage and there are no metals available from which to construct figures, 68 returns to its dormant state after 4 minutes and 32 seconds of activity. Materials surrounding the original figure must be melted away in order to retrieve 68. 68 is capable of kneading and manipulating any metal presented to it regardless of properties. It also appears to be impervious to any attempts to damage or destroy it. Copies of 68, however, have the same properties and vulnerabilities of whatever metal they were constructed from. 68 can detect metals hidden from view, though through an as-of-yet unknown process. While 68 will not attempt to reach metals that are too difficult to get to, it will tear through anything that is soft enough for its limbs to penetrate. What it considers soft enough changes depending on what 68 is shaped from at the time. Addendum 68A. A proposal has been made to use 68 to dispose of dangerous metal-based SCPs. B. See attached document 68A. Document 68A. The proposal to use 68 for disposal of dangerous metal-based SCPs has been denied. Seeing as how many, if not all, of our dangerous metal-based SCPs are also invincible, the only thing we would have is a bunch of invulnerable wire figures running about. Honestly, he even thought this up. Dr. Somebody. Okay. Second chance. Well, second chance is safe. 69 is currently impersonating former Foundation agent blank blank and is housed at Humanoid Containment Site 6-3. It used to say, 69 is to be provided with any reasonable item and or material so long as such request does not violate Foundation security protocols. Now it says, 69 is currently on suicide watch and all requests it makes must be approved by no fewer than 2 level 3 personnel. If 69 attempts to breach containment, it must be subdued using non-lethal methods. If 69 dies, undercover agents are to be instructed to monitor reports of incidents in which individuals appear to have escaped certain death, and 69 is to be recontained as soon as possible. Note: despite the fact that 69 is identical in all ways to Agent Someone, it remains an active SCP in containment and is not to be treated as a Foundation employee. Any requests for classified information are to be denied, and visits from former co-workers without proper authorization are not allowed. Description: 69 is a presumed humanoid entity of variable appearance and gender. Through an unknown ability, whenever 69 is left alone with a recently deceased human body, the body will disappear and 69 will take on the appearance, mannerisms, and knowledge of the recently dead individual. Through extensive experimentation, it has been shown that 69 is completely indistinguishable from the individual it impersonates, matching the original individual's fingerprints, DNA, and data expunged with nearly perfect precision. Soul? 69 retains no knowledge of its abilities or former impersonations. 69 responds normally to injury and pain, but if killed will rapidly decay into dust regardless of any preservation attempts. It will then re-emerge at the site of the most recent human death. There is no known maximum range to this effect, and so far has been observed in jumps of up to 675 kilometers. It can impersonate a single individual indefinitely. However, it will gain an overriding urge to get their life in order, including but not limited to resolving any outstanding financial or personal obligations, visiting extended family, updating their will and testament, and other acts of closure. When questioned, 69 professes no driving motivation other than a desire to straighten out their lives in the event of unforeseen injury or death. 69 first came to the Foundation's attention on blank 1990-something, following reports of one John M. something, a Suwon City firefighter who was miraculously emerged alive from a 3-alarm building fire in which 2 other firefighters and 11 civilians perished. Undercover agents attached to the local authorities were notified of possible SCPs when reports emerged that the firefighters' equipment had been damaged beyond recognition and that it had been deemed nearly impossible for the firefighter to emerge unscathed. Approximately 3 weeks later, then presumed John M. responded to another large-scale building fire during which he entered a smoke-filled room alone and was never found. A single civilian was rescued from the building, again nearly unharmed despite the heavy smoke reported within the building. 69 was designated the following day and rendered into Foundation custody by members of Mobile Task Force XI-3, the Body Snatchers. Okay. Addendum 69-1. On blank 2000-something, Agent blank blank, a guard on duty to 69, was killed during the containment breach of SCP-something, and subsequently impersonated by 69. Although initially in denial after being informed of its identity, it has been mostly cooperative since its impersonation of a mid-level Foundation employee. Contingencies for the use of deceased Foundation employees for future SCP-69 use is under consideration. 69-2. On blank 2000-something, 69 attempted to commit suicide after a junior researcher accidentally informed it that the family of blank had been told that blank was dead, and of their subsequent reactions. Due to the massive cost of possibly having to recontain 69, strict suicide measures are to be implemented. Plans to use other deceased Foundation employees as possible impersonation targets for 69 have been suspended. Okay, so somebody told it that the guy's family knew he was actually dead, and it freaked out. Okay, so still safe. All it does is turn into people and try to be a good person. Number 70, Iron Wings. Safe! 70 is to be kept within a 10 meter by 10 meter reinforced concrete room that is to be guarded and remotely monitored at all times. This room must always be well stocked with non-perishable food and water. See document 70IC for a complete inventory of these items, as well as basic amenities for humanoid SCPs. Security personnel assigned to 70 are to carry sticky foam guns in addition to standard armaments. Structural integrity of 70's containment room is to be checked twice daily. In case of excessive structural damage, 70 is to be incapacitated and relocated to a nearby backup containment room as described above. If a reinforced concrete room with a sufficient strength is not available, 70 may be temporarily contained in a cell of stronger material until another concrete room can be prepared. 70 is to be given sedatives and painkillers on request, but no more than maximum dosages determined by Dr. Dumont. Personnel who enter 70's containment room for any reason must be unarmed and should wear puncture-resistant body armor. Armed guards must remain outside and out of sight of 70. In case of containment breach due to somnambulism, security personnel are to alert site administration, place food and water in the apparent path of 70, and maintain a clear zone of 25 meters around 70. In any other case of containment breach, or if 70 becomes violent during somnambulism, personnel are authorized to incapacitate it using sticky foam. Care must be taken to avoid smothering it. Because 70 reflexively responds violently to injury or attack, security personnel should refrain from using lethal force or otherwise injuring 70 if at all possible. 70 appears to be a human male of Native American descent with a normal appearance save for a pair of rusty metal wings emerging from his back. Each wing is composed of several flat iron bars about 6 centimeters wide connected end to end by rotating rivets to form an articulated length of metal over 2 meters long. Hanging from these bars are chains of various lengths, 22 on each wing, each tipped with a barbed arrowhead. 70 appears to have no other anomalous properties besides these wings. The wings of SCP-70 appear to act independently of the person they are attached to, and SCP-70 has stated repeatedly that it has no control over them. However, when damage has been done to the wings, 70 has shown signs of physiological distress, including sweating, reduced blood flow to the face, and screaming in pain. The wings have been observed to fold and expand, shooting out and whip its chains at high speed, both individually and collectively, and anchor its arrowheads into concrete, wood, and like materials. While 70 has not displayed any overt hostility to personnel, it will often react violently to perceived threats by lashing out its chains at assailants and wrapping its chains around its body in a defensive posture. The most effective means of subdual have been proven to be sticky foam, non-lethal weaponry, which can reliably ensnare 70's chains from a safe distance. Despite their rusted appearance, the wings and chains of 70 are strong and high-quality alloy steel. However, they are also as dense as steel, and 70 cannot move about as a normal human due to the weight of the wings. As yet, 70 has been unable or unwilling to use its wings to facilitate human locomotion. 70 spends much of its time anchored to the walls and ceiling of its containment cell, usually sedated. Incident 71. On blank at 3:36, I guess in the morning, 70 breached containment. Security personnel were advised that 70 appeared to be asleep and were ordered not to engage 70 and to keep others away. By lashing and anchoring chains into the walls and ceiling in front of it, 70 was able to carry itself, still apparently asleep, through sight blank. 70 broke into the food stores of Canteen 4 and proceeded to gorge itself on the available food and water. Almost 19 minutes later, apparently sated, 70 returned to its containment room. At no point did 70 appear to wake up. 70 claimed no knowledge of the event afterward. Personal background. Interviews have revealed that 70 is named blank blank and is capable of reciting the correct social security number for a US citizen of the same name and age. 70 claims to be a member of the Kiowa tribe and data expunged. 70 claims to not know how the wings came to be, only remember waking up in a scrapyard with them after taking a lot of peyote the night before. Which is what? A small spineless cactus with psychoactive alkaloids. Okay, so he was tripping balls and woke up with wings. Okay, so I think stopping at entry 70 is a good stopping point. So the next entry will be Degenerative Metamorphic Entity. And I think in the next episode I'll try to just go clean through SCP-99 depending on how long these are. Because then I'll be able to get to 100 through 199, because I want to see how far I can get before Halloween, and it is currently June 19th, and I'm only on 71 out of 4,000. So, this has been Anashi Sasuke. This was episode 18 of Let's Read SCP Foundation Wiki, and I will see you guys next time. Later!